Hey folks, welcome to the Wealth Transfer with TC. Today I want to talk about Zion oil, and I want to talk a little bit about Iraq, and just touch on some prophetic words from Kenneth's story. Maybe some of you don't know who Kenneth's story is, but I'll explain that here in a little bit. But first, before I get into this, folks, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing information and giving you my thoughts and my opinion on that information. So if you guys like these videos that I make, the support links are down below in the description, and also the About section of YouTube, the Patreon, PayPal, and so on. Now, before I get into that, I wanted to share with you guys Kenneth's story. I've been following him for a very long time. I know there for a while he was trying to figure out like the 8 wells and some of the prophetic words from Clement back in the day. And he's kind of made a resurgence lately as far as making videos and stuff like that. So you can go to his video section and check out some of the videos that he has on his YouTube. So he just came out with this one. It's actually a really good video. And he's talking about what we could be seeing here in the month of June. All right, now I don't know if it's for this year, but it's something to look out for as he talks about the dollar drops 30% in value when the Middle East strikes a deal with China instead of the U.S., right? He's referring to Saudi Arabia. He's going over all these different dreams and visions. I do believe that a lot of this some of this has to do with years coming down the line as far as like Israel and Palestine and the two-state solution and all that. I don't think we're going to see that until we get closer to that tribulation point. When you go to the description, okay, because I've already watched the video, at sometime in May or June, Xi may go to Saudi Arabia. Saudi alliance with the U.S. is being undermined. He will enter an agreement to establish a petro-yuan. According to Chris's word, this will trigger a 30% drop in U.S. dollar value. This could come as early as June. When the dollar goes down, people will be looking for the next place to invest their money. We need to have all our investments lined up before this happens and get ahead of where the money will be flowing. Inflation will be rising dramatically, food shortages, we've all talked about that. Also, crop disruptions and food factories are being set on fire, which is absolutely insane. I don't think I've seen so many factories that produce food being on fire. And then we have, all these chickens and, being killed off, and factories that make baby formula being shut down and stuff like that. It's going to be absolutely insane, folks. And that's why I say, we have to prepare. This is not about being wealthy and buying a Lambo and going on vacation for a whole month and sitting on the beach. It's not going to be that way. Clement said when things seem at their worst is when the dinar is going to come forth. As we take part in the wealth transfer, we're going to be able to put ourselves into position, right? We might be able to, depending on where you live, if you're taking advantage of every single opportunity, you've invested in all the different various cryptos, stocks, BTC Buy Limit Orders, Lunacy, all the ones that we've been discussing. You're going to have opportunities. You're going to be able to become wealthy before a lot of this really starts to take place. And you may need to move, right? So that you can become a storehouse, not just for yourself and your family, but for other people too as well. You might need to move because you might need to move to a safer place. You might live in a bigger city and might move to a smaller city. You don't necessarily have to go out and buy a house. You can go out and rent a house if need be. And because you will be able to afford $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 a month just for that year, just to be able to get into a house, because you will have an abundance of wealth. In that way, you can begin to set yourself up for the future, because it's not going to be easy. There are people in this town right now. They go into Walmart, they go into all the stores, and they're stealing food. They're stealing electronics. They're going to the gas stations and stealing all types of stuff. What do you think is going to happen in the bigger cities? It's already happening in the bigger cities. And when people really start to get hungry because of the food shortages, it's going to be pretty crazy. Folks, you need to be able to put yourself in the position to be able to protect yourself and your family and be a blessing to other people. And so this is going to come quickly. There's going to be, here soon, everybody's going to need to be really on their toes and really pray about your situation and where you're going to be at. It's not going to be pretty. We never said that the wealth transfer was going to come easy. I've always been saying for the longest time, and many others have been saying, we're going to be going through a whole lot of things to get to where God wants us to, where we start to establish his kingdom, right? When we look at Egypt and what happened with God's people, they left with a wealth transfer. But after they left with a wealth transfer, they had to wander in the wilderness for 40 years, right? We don't want to wander in the wilderness. We want to go straight into the promised land. Well, during the 40-year wilderness experience, they were still fighting giant tribes all around the promised land. And then when they had to go into the wealth transfer, they had to fight even more giant tribes, right? And they were taking it city by city, region by region. And it didn't happen overnight. And so that's the same thing with this wealth transfer. Every battle is going to take time. So once we get this wealth transfer, we'll be doing the same thing, taking this country back, taking your wherever you live, taking your country back, city by city, state by state. Right? So I posted this video already for those on the Patreon and the Discord and all that. Make sure you guys, when you have a chance, watch it. It is 52 minutes long. All right, but this just goes to show there's a lot going on. I had the document that had all the dreams and visions of people were having for the last couple years about what we're getting ready to face right now. All right, so the next thing I want to touch on is Iraq and Saudi Arabia. I'm just reading this article. It's a very interesting article. Could Iraq dethrone Saudi Arabia as the largest oil producer? If Saudi Arabia makes this deal with the Chinese and they just stop thinking about America and they stop dealing with America on that level, and it's going to be very devastating, and you can see gas prices shoot up even more. According to what you saw, an immediate decline of 30% in value. So, and think about it, folks. People have to travel. People have to spend money. Look at diesel. So anything, when you look in inflation, if that deal was to cause the gas prices to go from, like in my town, they finally hit $5. Okay, it can easily shoot up to $8, $9. Right, that's where your 30% in devaluation is going, because it's going to affect everything: trucking, diesel fuel, going back and forth to work. Right, all those things are important. I do want to bring this up, and if you become wealthy enough in this wealth transfer, you may want to consider purchasing an electric vehicle, because there's going to be probably gas stations, they're going to be out of fuel. You may want to purchase an additional vehicle that's all electric. So that's something to think about. You may have to go out and get a Tesla or some other electric vehicle, Ford electric vehicle. It's just something to think about depending on the type of wealth that you come in and where you live at. Everybody's situation is different. Not everybody lives in the United States. These are all things that you have to pray about. But when it comes to Iraq, okay, looking at this article, and if Saudi Arabia and China do get together, and Saudi Arabia basically disses the United States, right? This is what I thought. And this kind of goes back to Kevin Drake's video. If you guys remember, Iraqi dinar upgrade $8, a vision of 2 dead whales. Now you look at this, you look at the picture that I created that dealt with this, and he talked about how the United States being revived with Iraqi oil. Okay, so after this happens, this may be an opportunity for Iraq to come in and help revive the United States, bring down the price of gas and oil and energy. So these are all things that are in play that could happen here very soon. Now, as far as an Iraqi dinar revaluation, I have no idea how all those events are going to take place. We don't know how quickly these events may happen. America might have to suffer for months before we get the oil from Iraq to be revived. But I found that interesting, trying to connect some of the pieces together. Now, one really quick thing. Now, of course, this administration has no clue, no idea. They think that they can tax oil companies. It's not about that. If it's Putin's oil and he's helped driving up the prices, and all these countries are making moves to destroy the United States. This is not going to help the United States. This administration has no clue, no idea. This article here, U.S. economic officials say Biden considering oil and tax windfall tax, right? So you want to tax the gas companies, right? And what are you going to do with the tax money? How are you going to, that's not how you do it. The U.S. has the largest oil reserves in the world, and we're not tapping that. Taxing the oil companies is not going to help the American people right now. We need to pump. And I guess according to some of the prophetic words, we'll be getting our oil from Iraq, which is going to help Iraq and help get us closer to the revaluation. But folks, we got it all right here, and this current administration will not use it. Now I want to get quickly a little bit into Zion Oil and Gas. All right, folks, and this is a very touchy situation of where we are at. It closed out at 31 cents. It was almost up 3 cents today. And it's simply amazing that where Zion Oil is right now, and we still haven't received the news that we are looking for. You look at WTI crude, West Texas, 117, Brent crude, 118, OPEC, 117, Louisiana Light, 117, Bonnie Light, 124. I believe that that's part of the reason why Zion Oil is doing a little bit well. Plus, I think there's a lot of short interest issues that are going on, and the shorts have actually trapped themselves, right? And I don't understand why they are still trapping themselves. Maybe they think that Zion Oil is not going to find any oil, and no matter what price it's at, eventually they're going to make a windfall. So going back and looking at Zion Oil short interest, and over the last 3 days, it's been a little high. On the 27th, it was 68, 40, then 42%, and then 55, 56%, right, of the volume is being shorted. All right, so that's more than half. Right, then we're going to look at the fails to deliver. And we finally did get some May numbers in. And I don't know if this is all the May numbers, to be honest with you. I would think that because the price has gone up, there'd be a lot more shorts. They could be hiding their short positions. Who knows? But some of these, like this, quantity of 50,000 isn't very much. But currently at the price right now, it's 31 cents per share. And if they have not covered, they're going to have to cover this pretty soon. The short information from the third, it's only 50,000 shares, and the value is only 10,000. But at the price where it's at right now, it's at 15,000. I think that because we don't get accurate information on a daily basis like we should be, it's very hard to determine where Zion Oil is at. And I think that if you just push it up just by a penny a day, you don't want to really drive this price up to 5 cents a day, right? To where it could easily come back down. But this is very, it's not only dangerous for the shorts, but it's also dangerous for people who are continuing to buy now. Even though it is, if you expect Zion Oil to announce they have oil, 31 cents is still very cheap. I do want to go back a little bit over history, but I want you guys to listen. This is from the last update. I didn't get a chance to discuss this in an update. All right, so this came out on May the 11th, and it just says here, all well testing, completion, and stimulation equipment are at the Haifa port or on location in Israel for the next phase of Zion operations. I would have already expected all of this to already be in Israel. I mean, they've been drilling this since June of 2021. It's just absolutely amazing how they still have stuff sitting at the port. And that was on May the 11th. So we're on June the 2nd, so that stuff should already be, anything that's at the port should already be on location, right? MJO2 well has been completed through casing, liner, and cementing. Ongoing operations include well stimulation and DST testing. All necessary equipment to conduct the well stimulation and DST testing are in country despite the global logistical backlog. Okay, so going back to MJO1, this is May of 2018. All right, and it says here, ZNOG announces that it expects to commence proliferation, stimulation, and flowback operations on Megiddo MJ1 as early as next week. Okay, that was May the 31st. I just read to you what's going on here, which I would expect them by now to have already begun the well stimulation and testing. Right, so here we are, we're at the same spot in time period where ZNOG was at in MJO1. All right, around the same time period. All right, so you go through, and you guys can do this. All you have to do is just scroll through. You go down to the bottom to get to this date and time, so you guys can do your own research. And this was started on page 9. You can go through and read all the updates. You can actually go back through, and you can see how long it actually took. So here, July the 31st. July the 31st, right? This is, remember they said back in May that they, within a week, in 2018, it just says here, ZNOG continues its well testing operations on its primary targets within Triassic formations, right? So, and they thought that these zones would be tested by the 13th of August. Right now, let's go, and this is when we officially got the news that they determined that it was not commercially viable. And that was on November the 20th of 2018. Okay, so when we go back to those dates, right, we go back to May, right, when they were beginning to start to do the testing. And what were they were doing? The well stimulation, right? That's what they were doing, getting ready to start in May. And here we are in the same position around the same time period, right? So now that I've been able to compare these time frames between MJO1 and MJO2, if they follow the same pattern and they drag it out, then we're not going to know until November of this year whether or not if they have oil or not. Here, November the 20th, when we got the update, as a result of the testing, Zion has determined that the well's not commercially viable. Right? And what did we get? They kept testing in between May 31st, right? So that would have been the beginning of June. So right, all the way through November. That's from June to July to August to September, October, November. We should know. They should know, according to all the research that we have done, it really shouldn't take that long to know whether or not if they have a viable oil well. And this is where investors need to be careful too as well, because they could easily drag this out for another 3 or 4 or 5 months. I think this time people should be really on to them, get us the results as soon as possible. Because a lot of people around this time lost money because they said they kept testing and testing and testing and testing for 5 months. They basically said they were testing only to say that they've determined the well's not commercially viable. Okay, so you see the price to where it's at now. It's at 31 cents. It might be very well over the next 4 months. We still may not hear anything. So you might see the price go up just like it did then and then come crashing down. All right. Now, this has nothing to do about faith or, believing in, Zion oil, because we've all been, for most of us, who we went through MJO1, right? And now we're on MJO2. Look how long it's taken to get to this point. So I just want you guys to be prepared, because if you plan on staying invested in Zion oil, and if they don't have a viable well, I want you to be able to at least prosper some. And then if you decide you want to go through the whole entire process all over again, at least you will have made profit and put it back into the company when it does crash. If it crashes back down, which will probably crash down to at least a penny. Might even get less than a penny for a short period of time, because this is a long-term investment, folks. Okay, so if you're buying right now at 30 and 31 cents, you better be watching this very, very carefully. And if it continues to go up and you continue to buy, yes, you better watch it very carefully. I hope they do have oil. I'm invested too as well. So I have money invested in this too as well. So I'm not saying this to try to scare people off or anything like that, right? I'm talking about the reality of things, okay? And the reality is we're at the same spot right now as they were with MJO1 with the well stimulation. All right, so we could be in this for another few months, and I will know, according to the language that they used in MJO1, as we get further into it. I mean, I think the next update should be, we should know. I mean, they've been doing this for years and years and years. There shouldn't be the delay, as there shouldn't be as much as a delay as we got because of the experience that they have in doing this. They should know pretty quickly whether or not if they have oil. And they should just go ahead and come out with it. You know, let's move on to the next well. If they don't have oil, let's just move on to the next well. Okay? Yeah, we sell off, you know, we take a small profit, and yeah, we might be at this for another year and a half, 2 years, but I'd rather just move on to the next well if this is not going to be viable. And that's just the way I feel about it, right? Why drag it out? Why spend all the additional money in testing if you should know pretty quickly whether or not if the well is viable? But that's just my opinion. I'd rather just get the information. No, it's not. Okay, wait for the price to drop. Everybody pours back in, pushes the price back up. Zion Oil sells off some stocks. They raise money for the next well, and then we just sit back and wait. This is a long-term investment that I think that will benefit Israel in the long run. All right, so that is really all that I have about this, folks. I'm excited, but I'm also cautious too as well. And we're at that phase where here soon they should know what's going on. I mean, with oil prices the way that they are right now, you know, they need to make an, if they know it's going to be viable, this is where they need to make their announcement, is when the price of oil is where it's at. They don't need to wait until it goes up to what we're expecting, what, the 200, and then it comes all the way crashing back down. You know, we talk about Iraq supplying the United States with oil. This is the time, you know, and I'm hoping they get some more prophetic words about Zion Oil because there's really nothing out there as so much. There's a little bit that tells us any definitive information about where Zion Oil is going to be at this year. So, like I said, folks, do your research. Go to the press. Go to the updates. Right? Go back all the way and just read through each update. That way, as these updates that come out, these new updates that we get, because they could drag it out for 3-4 months, you'll be able to understand the language that they are using, and that way you would be able to determine whether or not if they really have oil or they're just dragging things out. That's all I have for today. So I thank you guys for listening. God bless. TC out.